You're listening to the Jim Boy Star Podcast, episode 93, titled Dragon Warrior for Life, Part 5, guest starring Kenshin 1913. Welcome everyone, this is Jim Boy Star, and it's the Jim Boy Star Podcast, and this is our mini-series continuing. It is Dragon Warrior for Life with Pete, aka Kenshin 1913. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and yourself?
Good. All right, so this is the final chapter, but despite the fact it's the final chapter, we're actually going to break it down into two parts. Why don't you re-explain that to people on how this is working?
Right, so the final chapter is the longest chapter in the game, and pretty much encompasses, if you add up the first four chapters, it's like double that size. So we're going to break it up logically to when we collect all of the party members, and then after that, from there to the end of the game, and maybe even a little bit of Chapter 6,
right,
which is kind of more of a bonus chapter than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we're going to break it down.
Yeah, we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it. All right, so let's begin. This is a long chapter, so here we go.
Right, so if you guys remember, in the last chapter, the sisters of Monbarbara ended up defeating the guy, or at least they thought they defeated Balzac, who killed their dad, and they had to escape and go on a boat, and they had to leave their town to Endor. So we end that chapter kind of glum. So we start chapter 5. You're either, interestingly about this game, you can be a male or female, and they have different sprites. So you play this boy or girl who's in this remote. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jim.
No. But outside of that, there's no real difference, like in attributes, because you're the one that has done the Let's Plays, and you have a little bit more. Actually, I'll say a lot more research in these type of games than I do. Is there a difference at all when it comes to attributes between the two?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the sprites are a little different, and it's a little bit different dialogue at certain parts if you're playing the mobile version where they have party talk.
Okay.
So we're in this town, this little hidden village in the mountain.
It's a small town.
Yeah, it's very small. Everybody knows everybody's name pretty much, and you're just out talking with your pop, gonna get him some lunch. You meet up with your best friend, Celia, and you're talking about how you enjoy your time in this village and how you're about to become, I believe, 16 years old. So you give your lunch to your dad, and then you find out that there's a guy who is in the village. He came into the village. Usually they don't let anyone in the village, but this guy was like wounded or something, and they brought him to the inn and they let him stay. So
question.
Go ahead.
I don't think that this is in the Nintendo version.
It is and it isn't.
Okay.
They do have somebody at the inn staying who's like not from the village, but in the 5th chapter, in the DS and even the mobile version, they actually show they have a unique sprite for that character, which we'll talk about later. But
sure.
It's a special person that's there, and yeah. So this person's there. And then you give your lunch. You're about to eat lunch with your dad and your mom in the house, and then all of a sudden monsters attack. So they pretty much reveal to you that you are the legendary hero, and they've been pretty much training you for the day where you can go out and defeat the Lord of Evil or whatever, the Master of Darkness or whatever.
Right, and also it should be noted, and again, I'm kind of remembering more of the Nintendo version here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty funny that, so before this attack happens, you find out that apparently you're supposed to learn Zap today.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's a pretty good spell to start me off. And then of course, shit goes down.
Yeah, that is a super power. That is a very powerful spell to be at your disposal, especially on level 1. But
right.
and so what ends up happening is one by one, you're led into the basement of the storehouse, where your friend Celia meets you, and she's like, we've had a great time together, and she uses this spell called Transform, which transforms her into your likeness.
Why?
Then she goes.
Why couldn't she have taught you that?
Oh, that would have been great.
Like, and then, like, you've known each other forever, and clearly she does know magic, or at least this one spell that you don't know. I wondered that to myself. I was like, why wouldn't you have taught me that?
Yeah, that would have been a good spell to learn for sure. That and Zap. I mean, apparently the hero doesn't like. They're like, the advanced stuff we'll teach you after you turn 16. Don't you worry.
Right.
And so she turns into the likeness of your character and goes up, and then she gets pretty much killed. And that you hear outside that the monsters are like, we got him, Sorrow. We got him. The hero is defeated. So you end up going upstairs, and this part is pretty dark. I mean, it's pretty crazy. The whole village is destroyed. No one's left. Like, not even anyone's body is around. It's not like
no skeletons or anything like that.
Nothing.
And you get that sad music, I think, right? The same song we heard from Ek Tempo.
Yes. And we hear that music, and it's just really, really sad. So you leave the town determined to maybe find who did this and take care of them.
To try to find a way to survive without everyone that you knew and loved have been destroyed. How do you go on to live your life? Also, how do the monsters know what you look like? Because they were like, when Cecilia turned into you, they're like, oh, we got him or her, like whatever.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how they figured out that this one person. I mean, because back in Ragnar's chapter, they were collecting kids and trying to get rid of them. But how do they know that the one that they got is the one? And it's over?
I mean, it's not the same game, but I feel like it should have been more like Dragon Warrior 5. Where they didn't know, they knew the legendary hero was going to be born, or no, that was born already, and so they just kind of tried getting the kids and making them slave, like something to that effect, because you don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Right, so we go and we're sad, we lost everything. Where do we go?
We go out into the world map, and you hear the music, the theme for the world map, which is really, really good. I think it's called Lonely Journey, right? And it's really, really good.
It's a fitting name.
Yes, it is. And so you walk down to this woodsman shack to the south, and you kind of talk to this guy, and he's like, what the hell are you doing here? Kind of tough love kind of thing, like, get the heck out of here. And then as you're leaving, he's like, oh, no, you know what? If you want to stay here. And you pick up some stuff there, and he kind of like this guy with a heart of gold. We'll talk about him later. Anyway, so after that, you leave the woodsman shack. Oh, one other thing you see at the shack is a grave to the outside. So you pretty much leave the woodsman shack and you head south to this castle called Branca. And in Branca, pretty much news travels really, really fast, as in most role-playing games, apparently.
Right.
They already found out the hero is dead. So they're like, we need to get groups of people together to go deal with the monsters or whatnot. So you go to the king, and the king's like, maybe you should go check out Endor. That's a big country or castle. You might be able to find people there or whatever. Because when you try to join the party in Branca with the group, they're like, oh no, we already have 4. And
we have 4 people.
Yeah, so it's not like they can use an extra person.
Imagine if the real world, like our Earth, was invaded by aliens, and you go out there and you're like, yeah, I got my gun, I actually have a bomb, like we're gonna get these suckers, and they're like, no, you can't come with us. We already have 3 other people.
Yeah, that's it. 4's the max.
It's so weird to me, but I get it. I mean, I'm sure that's how it was programmed. Like that, you probably. Well, no, that's not true at all. Wait a minute, because later on, there's more than 4 people.
Yeah, well, I guess because they didn't have a wagon. They pretty much like, oh no, 4's the max.
Do we know what the name of this castle is, or town castle?
It's called Branca. Okay. I don't remember what it's called in the updated versions of the game.
Oh God, I dread to think what they would have changed it to.
Yeah.
Although I guess it's a very like it's super forgettable because all it is like a significance of this is where I have to go to find out where I have to go.
Yeah, exactly. And so you kind of hear some rumors when you're in the castle about like how this angel or some fair someone fell from heaven and they fell in love with the woodsman to the north or something like that, and you're like, what? And you kind of hear some rumors about stuff, but you really don't know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So some of the people in the town also talk about Talun because he was able to make this cave that now you can actually go to Endor. So pretty much you go through the cave, you get to Endor, and you meet Nera and Mera. So if you head to the casino first, you meet Mara, and she's playing the slot machines, and she doesn't want anything to do with you. She pretty much doesn't even notice that you're around. So when you go talk to Nera, she pretty much says to you that the same, the same fortune that the lady told them, where it was like eight pillars of light will come together and become one giant pillar. And she's like, oh my God, you're the guy that we're looking for. And so she joins your group. And then with some persuasion, when you go back down to the casino, you get Mara.
Right.
So once they join your party, you're pretty much like, all right, what do we got to do next? Now, at this point, it's kind of optional what you can go do. You can actually head back to Talun's old town if you want, or you could head to like the like that area up there and collect some items and stuff if you didn't get it from Talun. But usually I do.
Right.
And then if you go to the shrine that heads towards Elena's castle, you actually can't go there. They block you off.
Okay. Well, so, I want to point out something in Endor though before we go further. Remember in Chapter 2 when you talked about that really weird formatted tournament that was happening? Mm-hmm. What is there now? Why don't you tell people what's happening over there?
Oh, right. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Over at the arena, pretty much they're having the wedding between the Prince of Bon Mamo, I think I got it right this time, and the Princess of Endor. They're getting married, and that wedding pretty much takes place throughout the entire 5th chapter, which I think is hilarious.
It is. It's the wedding that never ends. It lasts forever.
It does, and that's pretty much why you can't find the king or anyone around, because they're pretty much at the wedding all day. So from that point, you kind of don't know where to go. Right. So you pretty much head back to Branca, and then from there you head east, because you hear about you pretty much hear that Talun went to the south, and you might want to look for him because he's looking for stuff too. So you're like, okay. And when you go to this, you head to this big desert, and you hear that you can't cross this desert without a wagon. Right. So you talk to the guy who has the wagon. His name's Hector. But Hector doesn't trust nobody because he went to this cave back in the day with his buddy, and his buddy almost killed him. And then he pretty much left his buddy in the cave, and that was it. So he pretty much doesn't trust anybody. Right. So what you want to do from there is you're going to head to that cave and see what the heck's going on with it. Mm-hmm. So when you get into this cave, it's called the Cave of Betrayal. You pretty much head through, and Nera and Mara, they fall one way, and then you go another way, and you meet up with them, and throughout the entire dungeon, Nera and Mara are actually monsters that you have to fight, which can be a little tricky if you didn't level up just a bit.
Yeah, definitely, because you're by yourself as well. That's the whole problem there. And also, it should be noted that you can't do this without them, because the thing that blocks the entrance, if you go by yourself, I'm almost sure of this, it says, like, you need the power of 3 people to actually go any further. And
right.
And also, like, who named it the Cave of Betrayal? Am I supposed to believe that maybe Hector was so upset by it, he named the cave after what he felt?
Maybe. It seems that way. Like, I'm sure, like, if he heard that it was called the Cave of Betrayal, maybe he wouldn't have been so mad that his friend betrayed him, for sure, yeah.
By the way, this would be a good time for me to be upset about what they changed Hector's name to in the remakes. Do you remember what his name was? Although it's not the worst one, I guess, compared to some of the other ones we've talked about.
No, I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was like Hank Hoffman Jr.
Oh yes, Hoffman. They called him Hoffman.
I was like, why? I liked Hector.
Yeah, Hector's a pretty good name. It's this one isn't the worst one though.
No, not at all. Yeah, we've ranted about, what was it, Laurel and Hardy in chapter 3 and a bunch of other ones, but one really horrible one happens in this chapter, but I don't think it's on this part. I think it's in the next part. One thing I want to bring up though, before we go any further, I think one thing that I really feel is really cool is in each chapter that we've talked about, 1, 2, 3, and 4, except for 3, there's like a significance of something in a town of each chapter. And we'll go into it, obviously, when we hit those places. But the only one I can think of is, like, Tulun's doesn't really have anything significant there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you can think of one that I can't. But, like, as you said, you can go back to Tulun's area.
Yeah.
But is there anything really there?
You find out that guy that Tulun saved with his dog, he pretty much lives in Tulun's old house, and that he pretty much works for the guy that Tulun works for. That's pretty much it, really.
Right.
And
nothing significant into the main story, whereas there's a town from every chapter that you've already visited that does have usually a huge significance.
Right. Yes, there are. Yeah, most of when you go back to the places. Yeah, most of them have something that you have to get there, and that's a plot point. But not with Tulun, not his hometown either.
Yeah, all right. So you're fighting Mara and Nara in the cave.
Yeah, so you pretty much defeat them. I think you got to do it like up to 3 times, I think. And like you said, you wouldn't have been able to come in here originally because you need more people. So at the bottom of the thing, you meet Nara and Mara, and they're running away, and then finally they're like, "Oh no, you're not the hero. We've had to deal with you already." And so they pretty much ask you a question from when you first met them, and I don't think it really matters what you pick, but they eventually.
It doesn't. I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I'm just very surprised that it doesn't.
Yeah.
So if you pick the wrong one, do you know what they say? Do you remember?
I think they say something like, "Oh no, you remember you remember Nara was in the casino or whatever," and it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
I love it. That's like if you were to say, "Hey, I don't know," like you ask them question, you're like, "No, of course." Remember when you were doing it? Like you're giving him hints.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it's like? It's like. It's kind of absurd. It's an absurd comparison, but like Mario is missing. If you've ever played that, because like you gather artifacts, and then you take like trivia questions. But apparently, for some reason, if you know the trivia question, that makes it like the best, like a legit artifact, even though it's something that everyone theoretically could find out themselves by researching. So weird. But yeah, so really nothing happens, I guess, if you answer it wrong. And I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, it is. I guess it doesn't really matter. But so they join your group. One thing I forgot to mention about this game is if you are playing the NES version, at this point you cannot control Nara and Mara. You pretty much they pretty much are like AI, and there's different AIs in the game that you could choose from. They didn't actually get it down really good until I want to say I think 6 or maybe even 5, but pretty much they have different like things you can do, and one of them's like use all your magic or don't use any magic or try stuff out and stuff like that. So that one's a pain. Usually now when I play it, if I play on the NES, I'll put in a code to have it that you can do it manually, but in the later versions you can actually control everybody. I actually don't know why they did that. The only thing I could think of was that they must have thought, okay, you control these characters in their own chapters. Now that it's the hero's chapter, you're just going to be able to control him, which is weird.
Right, yeah, because if you look at the pattern of the previous chapters, like, you weren't able to control Healy, you weren't able to control,
Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, Laurel and Hardy, Jesus. And also, Orin's the other one I just try to think of, yeah. You made me remember Laurel and Hardy.
Yes. And so you get this little treasure on the bottom floor, and it's called the Symbol of Faith or whatever. So you bring it back to Hector, and you show him this thing, and it pretty much is like, oh my God, this is what we were looking for. This has brought back my faith in humanity. And you pretty much, and then there you get the horse and the wagon, and he actually joins your group.
Question. So what happened to Hector's friend? I
think he ended up dying, honestly. I bet you he thought like Hector left, and he's probably still stuck in there. And he's like, oh, Hector, and then he probably got killed by one of the monsters.
So do you think like he died at the hands of impersonator Hector?
I think so.
Okay, that's a fair theory. All right.
So we have this horsey with a wagon, and with the wagon, you can actually have more than 4 party members, and you can switch them out at will. But and I believe the horse's name is Primrose, I think.
Oh, that's right. I forgot there was a horse name until you said it.
Yeah, so we have this wagon, we have the horsey, and we travel south into the desert, which isn't really that big. And then we hit another town just outside the desert on the other side called Annex. And here it's pretty much like an interesting town where it's
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy right in the front, and he's like, oh, hey, you want a tour of the town?
Tell us about the tour.
And you're like, oh, what the hell? I don't know this town. So he takes you all around. So he takes us around, and he shows us all the different places. He shows us the weapon shops, the armor shops. He shows us the armor, this fancy armor that supposedly was used by some hero or something that protect the town. And you're like, okay, maybe we should check that out later. He shows you the hot springs. He shows you the church. And then finally he gets back to an inn. And he's like, hey, I run this inn, and you know what? You should stay here. And it's like, I don't know. And he's like, oh, I'll give you a deal. But interestingly enough, I believe there's 2 inns in this town. And I believe the other one is actually cheaper. It's like, thanks for the tour, but I'm going to stay with the cheaper place.
So, question: If you were to give this guy like a number on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank his tour?
Oh, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst?
Yes.
I'd probably give him like a 6. I mean, he showed you around. He pretty much showed you like all the little sights, like I didn't know that they had a hot spring or like the church with the funny armor. Mm-hmm. And I think he was all right, but he definitely at the end pushed his hotel. He's like, "Oh, do you need a place to stay? Well, I got the perfect place. It's right here."
He says, "Like I hear the staff here is really friendly."
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Here's the best part of that whole thing. I have the same number as you. I had 6.
Yeah.
I gave him points off for self-promotion and also armor false armor info, which you'll get into right now.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's like if you gave us like a discount, it'd be like, okay, I'll stay here, and but it's still expensive. So if you came to this town at night, you can actually go and check out the armor, and you hear from if you go into the grave site, the grave is the hero. He's like a ghost or whatever, and he's outside, and he's like, oh, the armor that they have in there is a fake. The one that I used got stolen a long time ago. So you're like, oh man, that isn't even the real armor. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a pretty amazing armor. And then also you find out that it's the Zenithian armor, which is kind of like, ooh, what's that? That sounds pretty amazing.
Right.
So that's pretty much everything in this town. And you hear, and another thing you hear about, this is a kind of nice thing because it starts off kind of like you don't really know where to go. And at least the people in the town kind of give you suggestions of where to go or like hints and be like, so they mentioned there's a town to the south that's pretty much a big port town where you could find a ship. Mm-hmm. So after we're done with Annex, we head over to Conan Bear, and this is big port town, and pretty much they're having some troubles getting ships out. And you hear a lot about Talon, who just got a new ship, and he has to go to the lighthouse because the lighthouse has been taken over by evil people, which by monsters. And if you don't have the lighthouse, apparently all the ships will sink, and they haven't been able to launch any boats.
Right.
So you're talking to people around here. You're hearing that Talon went to the lighthouse, and you're like, okay, we're going to go to the lighthouse. So you head up to this lighthouse, which is to the east, in the northeast, and you meet Talon, and he's like, hey guys, I couldn't find anything here. There's this thing called the Fire of Serenity that will like make the lighthouse fire good again. Can you guys find that for me? And we're like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I honestly thought that, like, the first time I played it, I was like, okay, cool, he's going to join our group.
That's right.
He's like, no, I'm going to meet you back in town. It's like, oh, god damn it, you should join my group.
And what the hell is he doing in town? Why did he go back?
Yeah, I think he was just maybe checking up on his boat. He's like, oh god, I don't want to do this.
I was going to say, oh, you mean the boat that's not allowed to leave? He's got to check to see if it's still in place?
Yeah, he's like, please God, I can't do this myself.
So we go up through what does he mean he couldn't find anything? There's tons of monsters there. Yeah, I guess because maybe he didn't have, like... Here's what I think, like, after his chapter was done, he probably had... Usually what I like to do is I take the two mercenaries, Strom and Laurent or whatever, and I take them and usually into the end of the chapter. So I always thought, like, okay, he probably made it to this town with those guys, and then after that they're on the clock. They're on the clock. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, they went back to Endor, and then Talon's trying to do like the lighthouse thing on his own, and I think he knows that he's pretty much in over his head. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's a good theory.
Yeah. So he pretty much asked you to do it, and you, of course, as being the heroes, we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. So we head up through the tower or the lighthouse, and we find the Fire of Serenity in one of the chests up through the cave, and also you find this little imp monster guy who's like, I can't wait for Talon to get here. I'm going to ambush him. He's ha 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 ha, and then you talk to him, and he says, what the hell? Talon went back to town, and so he warps out of there, but he hits his head on the ceiling as he's trying to use the outside spell, the return spell, yeah. Which I find hilarious because I think that was one of the first times they started to do that, where
they hit the head, yeah.
Yeah, you hit your head. So then he gets knocked out, and then you continue to climb the lighthouse, and finally at the top, you meet these monsters who are pretty much guarding the evil fire, and you have to fight them. This is actually the first really tricky battle because there's these two enemies called flamers, and they shoot fire at you, and it can be pretty nasty if you don't... they can get pretty nasty if you don't manage the healing correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So once you defeat them, and there's a tiger guy with you, or with them, you defeat them, you put the Fire of Serenity in the evil fire, and it turns into good fire again. So it's like, yippee, we did it. So we head back to the port town, meet Talon, and he's like, oh, guys, thanks a lot for helping me. You know what? I'm going to join you in my group, and we can take my boat. So it's like, sweet. From there, he kind of mentions that there's this town called Mintos, which is to the south, where he's like, dude, there's like a bunch of great merchants there. We should check it out. So, we head south towards Mintos.
Sure, we take Talon on his word here. By the way, real quick question for you at this point, because now this is the first time in the game where you have more party members than you can actually fit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can only have 4. When you play, who's the one that gets out at this point?
Oh. I give Hector the boot real quick, because Hector, at this point, he's like a weaker version of Orin. Like, he has pretty much the same gear that Orin had, but he's not nearly as strong. So I, kick his ass out, because Talon, in this game,
I know you like Talon, so I figured Talon was not going to be out. But to be honest, I thought you were going to tell me it was either going to be Mara or Nara.
No. I keep them in, because at least they've got they've got spells and they're a little more reliable than Hector. Hector can really only fight, and then he builds up his power and then hits for like double the next turn. But no, I put Talon in, and I honestly believe that Talon is more useful in this game than he is even in the remakes, because there's just so much good stuff he does.
Right.
Because in the 5th chapter, he kind of acts more like a goof off or a jester or whatever. And he pretty much does, sometimes he'll attack, sometimes he'll fall over and it'll end up being a critical, which is great.
Yeah.
Then he does an ability where he calls an army of merchants to come over and just beat the crap out of whoever's on screen. Yeah. And that does some really great damage.
That's like shades of on Dragon Warrior 7, Gabbo.
Yeah, and then he also does a thing where he'll sing a lullaby and he'll put the monsters to sleep. Sometimes he'll twirl his finger and he will make a monster confused. And then he also throws sand in the monster's eyes. And then the last one, which is kind of more of a negative than anything, he kind of like just sits back and like looks at like stares off in the distance, so he won't do attack that time. But he is so much more useful in this version of the game than in the newer versions, because in the newer versions you can control him, but he doesn't do any of that stuff.
Right. I mean, I know what you're saying, because he's being controlled by the player, so none of the stuff is not like you have an option. I'd like to trip right now. Right,
and do a critical or whatever. So Hector's out. Talon is in. Okay. So we head to Mintos, where this is pretty much a big merchant town, big bazaar kind of port, not port, but like there's a big center where a lot of weapons and armor for sale. If you haven't like started to like upgrade your gear, this is a great place to do so. And there's a giant inn here. Pretty much there's this old man who came here and he's like, yeah, I'm going to start a big old town, and he made this giant inn, and he's talking at the at like the center of town, and there you can, if you answer a question, he asks you like what's more valuable than gold or something, and you don't answer him, and he's like, yeah, it's silence, that's more valuable than gold, and he gives you the world map, which is a nice item to have.
That was an easily earned world map right there.
Right, and I believe around this time we can start picking up these items in this game called small medals, which I think this is the first game they started it, where you can collect them, and eventually we'll meet someone who will give you an item, or give you items in exchange for tiny medals.
Yeah, I think you're right, and actually I don't think I remembered that until you said that this would be the first game to involve small medals, later known as mini medals.
Yeah, and so... we find out, we hear a little bit of rumors about Ragnar, who was hanging out here, which I'm surprised because he gets around, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he gets around except for the region that he probably should be at.
Yeah. So we head to this big old inn, and in the inn we meet Bray and Christo. And Christo
you mean Christo the Sicko?
Christo the Sicko, yeah, I like that. And he's sick. He's not doing too well, so Bray is like, Elena went out to search for medicine for him, and she hasn't been back in a while. I'm kind of concerned. So he asked you to go look for a random stranger, I guess, and you say, yeah, and then Bray's like, oh, you know what? I'll come with you. And it's like, what? Shouldn't you stay here and watch him? But he's like, oh, no, I'll get the innkeeper.
He could die while he's gone.
Exactly.
Well, I guess theoretically, if he now I'm going to defend Bray now, because I guess if he stays and it's not like him staying there is adding to Christo's life.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's true.
I can't believe I bashed Bray and then defended him within 5 seconds.
Well, he actually for this part of the game is very useful. So. Who's
in your party now? Because now you have to make another decision. So Bray's
right.
In who's out?
Right now, I would take out Nara. I pretty much take her out. So I have Talon. I would have the hero Talon, Mara. She's the one, the dancer, and Bray. Pretty much. So
I like this theme of when we're going through it and we get a new person. I'm going to keep making you choose.
Right.
Which one you're going to throw out.
Yeah, I have two. Yeah, at this point, I have two wizards because the thing about Nara, she kind of like she's not very strong, and then she doesn't have as useful magic. Granted, she's another healer, but the hero is pretty good at healing right now. So it's like, nah, I'm just gonna stick with the two wizards in Tulun.
All right.
So they talk about there's this country called Soretta, which has the antidote or the medicine that will heal Christos. So that is way, 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 way to the east. So we head that way, and we eventually get to Soretta, which is a very, very poor castle town.
Yeah.
And even people are working the fields, lots of farmers, and they have this seed called the Padquia seed, I guess that's how
I've always had a hard time in saying that.
Yeah, so the king is pretty much in the fields too. He's literally, plowing the fields and all that stuff. So that's how poor this town is. The castle is made out of wood. Like, it's not even stone. It's like a wood castle. Yeah. And pretty much he's like, if you can get me the seed, I'll make you the root or whatever. I'll get you the medicine. But he's like, we used to grow it here, but we put it in a vault in a vault to the south. It's like this big frozen vault thing, and that's where you'll find it. So we're like, all right, we'll go there.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we head south to this vault, and it's the obligatory ice area of any role playing game. You need one. So we meet Elena here. And if you bring Bray, there's some extra dialogue. She's with another group of people who are looking for this root, the seed.
Well, wait a minute, but you have to bring Bray, I thought.
No, you don't have to.
Oh, you mean I mean as part of the actual party, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
you don't have to bring him.
Okay, so yeah, Elena's in a party with 3 other people, which means no one else can join in the world.
Exactly. So she tells Bray and you guys to go home because she's going to find it. Don't worry about it. And of course that's a lie, because if you don't find it, the game doesn't continue.
Right.
So you pretty much go through this cave, a lot of ice monsters, a lot of nasty guys, and you eventually go. There's a lot of weird like tiles where you like slide all over the place, so it's kind of like ice. It's kind of cool. And you do get some really good gear in here. So eventually you get the seed, and you bring it back to the king of Soretta, and he grows it for you. Instantly becomes a plant, and he gives you the root of this plant. And he's like, yeah, use this, and your buddy will be healed. So,
well, you think if the guy had such a green thumb that maybe his kingdom would be doing better.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know why they haven't planted like different things. I wonder if they just don't have stuff that like sells well in this town.
Or maybe the weather's just not working in their favor for certain things.
Yeah, that's true.
Then again, I'm trying to think, does it ever rain in this game?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen it rain. But it does go from day to night. What was that, Jim? I'm sorry?
I said I want to say no.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But yeah, so I guess it'd be pretty hard if they'd have to have a good irrigation system for sure.
Right. Well, are they near a river or anything? I'm trying to remember the geography of this
I know
place
they're
now.
near the water, but I don't think they're near a river. No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So once we get this route, we head back to Mintos, where Christo is, and you meet Elena there, and she's like, "Oh, we didn't find the seed. Did you guys find
no
anything?"
Shit.
Yeah. So we're like, hell yeah, we did. And if then from there you give Christo, you give him the root, and pretty much he gets better almost right on the spot. Miracle cure. I wish I had some of that.
Right.
And so
you would think with that kingdom could charge an arm and a leg for something like that. Again, this kingdom, I'm starting to wonder that it's not the fact that the kingdom's doing too bad. It's you have a king that doesn't know how to do stuff. That doesn't
he's severely
know
mismanaging the town's resources.
I think mismanaging is a good word there. Yes.
Right. So once Christo is recovered, he and Elena decide to join your group because they're like, "Oh, you helped us out. You're the guy that we're looking for, and we're going to join you on your group." So
who's in now? Who's your 4 people?
It would probably be the hero, Christo, Elena and Bray. Pretty much the hero and Elena's group.
I'm very surprised by that. Can you give a little bit of backstory on why you would choose basically the hero in Chapter 2?
Well, at this point, I figured we've had Nara in quite a bit, so I was like, oh, let's put her out. And then Talon kind of like I just need a little bit more magic. Kirsto's my favorite character, so he's pretty much there all the time.
Even though he keeps casting spells that he probably shouldn't.
Yeah, that gets annoying, but it is a little bit hilarious. But then it's like, what are you doing, buddy? Come on. But I do eventually take him out. I don't keep him in. The full game, I try to keep it flowing like different characters.
Well, yeah, I think when we hit mini bosses, I'm going to ask you like who's in your party for this one. Like,
right.
I think that's what this pattern is going to continue as.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, I might keep Bray out and keep Nara in because the next area kind of involves the sisters. So I might actually, it might actually involve.
And I know how much you love party talk. So
I know if I was playing the the mobile version, I definitely have Nara and Mara in because the next area we're going to is going to involve them. I
like that your decisions are in some ways coming from what are the characters going to say,
exactly,
as opposed to their skills. Okay, so all right, where are we going now?
So you leave the room where they were all at, and some random stranger says, "Hey, some dude's looking for you. This guy Ragnar. He went to Keelan." Keelan, and to a country to the farther west. So you're like, oh shit, yeah, we can get Ragnar. So as we leave Halville, sadly, although not that sadly, Hoffman or Hector says, you know what, I want to learn from the dude who built this giant inn. I want to become a good innkeeper. Right. So he pretty much leaves your group, which is all right, because it's like at this point, there are so many other characters overshadowing him, it's not even worth it.
Right, and you've already ditched him once Talon joined in, so, and you have not looked back.
Yeah. But do not forget him if you're playing the DS or mobile versions or whatever, because he will be part of a big side quest a little later.
I think even though that's not part of the Nintendo version, I think I might want to talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that, especially for the next part.
Yeah, okay.
So we head back to Halville, which is just south of Endor, if you remember from the girls' chapter, and you pretty much hear about how Ragnar, he went to Keelan, and you're like, okay, all right, and you hear that in this town you actually get new dialogue, which is kind of neat, and they're talking about magic key and how alchemists used to use magic keys and this, that, and the other. So you head south to Keelan, where you meet a purple guy who's called Healy, and you're like, holy shit.
It worked.
Healy turned into a human somehow. This is amazing. And he says that Ragnar is inside, and he needs you to rescue him. So you're like, okay.
The weird thing is this, though. I want to know, did Healy, though, kind of miss his old self? Because unlike what I assume he is now, like if he gets hurt, I can't cast a spell on myself to heal me. Like he had instant heal whenever he went. Like I think I would miss that if I was in his situation.
Yeah, I would kind of miss that a little bit too, because it's like, why would unless he can still cast it as a human, it just seems really weird.
Yeah. Now also, before we go into this castle, can we talk about real quick if you go back to where which one was the one? I think it was. Which one's the one that's the performer? Mara or Nara?
That would be Mara.
Okay. Where she used to perform. And can we talk about who's there now?
Right. So, we'll get to that.
Is that after the fight?
We can't go into the castle yet because we need a magic key because Orin was the guy who broke into it. So, again, you heard about alchemists, so you're going to head back to Nara and Mara's hometown, where you hear about how their dad had a secret laboratory in the cave to the west. But before we go there, we can actually head to Mon Barbara.
Yeah,
and
I completely forgot that we can't go right into the castle yet.
No, not yet. So you can also head to Mon Barbara, which is optional. You don't have to. And when you head there, you go at night, I believe. You find out that there's a comedian there.
Yeah.
And his name is Panon.
Yeah,
and he's like this funny comedian guy or whatever, and he pretty much is taking over the stage instead of dancing, which I guess is all right,
Yeah.
I'm glad they have a different act rather than just dancing, but yeah, so he's pretty much doing the show now.
Yeah, he if you talk to him, he tells a joke about basically insinuating that you're riding his coattails, which you did not understand in your Let's Play at the time.
No, I didn't understand what the hell he was talking about. And even when I went back to him, I think in the DS version, I was like, what is his deal?
Well, he probably said a different joke in the DS version.
Yeah.
He also had a much more horrible name in the DS version.
Yeah, what was his name? He was like...
I don't remember, but I know it was the worst, but I can't remember.
Well, we'll get to him a little later.
We'll talk more Patton later, sure. All right.
Yeah, so we head back to the cave west of Kiev where we met Orin back in Chapter 4. And we head down pretty much to where we got the Sphere of Silence and we met Orin. And we search inside of a treasure chest, which brings us to the stairs, which brings us to a laboratory where I believe there's a slime in there, maybe?
Yeah. Joe, imagine if you would have looked into that chest in Chapter 4.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't let you do that earlier, but I guess because we didn't have a prompt. But we find the magic key down there, so we're like, oh yeah, we can head into what the hell is it? Keelan now, and pretty much we from there we head back to Keelan and we open the door. And we already know of the secret passageway. As we walk over, we see Ragnar. He's fighting off some guys. And he knocks them out, and he goes through the secret passageway. And he's like, oh, you guys, you must be the hero. He's like, I need you to help me out. So you meet Keelan, who's, if you have the Sisters of Mon Barbara in the group, they'll actually have a little extra dialogue. I think even in the NES version, they might.
So do you keep them? Here we go. We're up to our mini boss here. So who's in your party at this point? And again, when I first played it, I thought again, just like Talon, I would automatically have the choice of having Ragnar join me. Not the case.
No, because Ragnar is actually taking on a couple of guards, while you're going to take on Keelan. At this point, I'd probably have the hero, Elena, and for story purposes, I would probably have the two sisters in, because at least Nara and Mara, one of them's a healer, and then one of them uses some good magic, so I would probably have that. At this point, Christo, his healing is probably around the same level as the hero or even Nara, so it's like, I'll use her. So pretty much you take him on. He's not nearly as crazy as he was when you fought with the sisters, because he can actually be defeated. So you fight him. It can be a pretty tricky battle, and you beat him, and he's like, oh no, I'm dead, and he dies.
Right.
After that, Ragnar finally joins your group, and you have the whole group, the quote-unquote chosen ones or whatever, or what's the name? The chosen ones or something like that. And you go outside. You have to see, now, I wonder if you can do this if you leave the castle and come back in with Ragnar. Because if you talk to Healy now, he'll be like, oh, tell Ragnar. Well, no, see, I don't think you can bring Ragnar in. Anyways, you can talk to Healy, who's outside, and he's like, oh, tell Ragnar I hope he has a good journey. I'm off to do whatever. And he leaves. That's it.
Not even a goodbye for his friend. What's up with that?
Yeah, he doesn't even say bye-bye. He's like, oh, if you see him, tell him bye. It's like, what the hell, Healy?
If you see him, does that mean that Healy might think he might have died?
I don't know. I think that after he joined your group, he's just like, oh yeah, tell Ragnar I said bye. It's like, let me go and get him for a second. Hold on a second.
So does Ragnar make the cut at this point for your team?
Ragnar totally makes the cut.
Okay.
Right now, after this point, I have Ragnar, I have Christo, and I have Elena.
Okay.
And the hero, of course.
Right.
And at this point in the game, just to point out, I guess this might be one of the last things we talk about.
Sure, probably.
But just to point out, now that we have all the characters in the group, you can change whoever you want. Obviously, you don't have the hero right in the front, but whoever you put in the front will actually have their chapter's theme as you walk around the world map.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, definitely.
And if you have one of the girls in the front, like Nara or Mara, you'll actually get their battle theme too, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
We're gonna talk about during this period, basically.
Right. Yeah, we've collected all the chosen ones, and you pretty much were ready to beat the Lord of Darkness or whatever, and collect some really interesting gear along the way, as we'll hear more about that next time.
Yeah, I think like the most there's two things I want to point out. Number one, I like the way that all the way you find your party members is basically backwards from the chapters, because it's Mara and Nara, then it's Talon. So it's basically, 4, 3, 2, 1 as far as chapters go. And I thought that was really cool. And I mean, we kind of hinted about certain aspects that we'll talk about next time. But I mean, overall, what are your thoughts on the way things are handled, getting reacquainted with people that you've already played as, basically?
Oh, I think it's pretty good, and especially now at this point, like once we get all the characters, you really have a good mix of spellcasters and physical guys and healers and stuff like that. I also really liked how they did it from 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of thing, where you collected them, the sisters, and then Talon, and then Elena's party and Ragnar. I like that, and I like the fact that you didn't have to get them all right now. Like, I wonder if there's a way. Well, no, I don't think there's a way you can do trying not to get like certain characters and do other parts of the game first.
I think it's really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, because after you get the ship, pretty much most of the world is open to you, so you can kind of do what you want. But to not get the other party members is just kind of dumb. But I like the fact that they do give you a lot of good hints about where other characters are, like especially Ragnar. I love the fact that wherever he goes, people remember him. Right. And they're like, this guy was looking for somebody.
He's the only soldier in the world that wears, like, pinkish gear.
Exactly. And he's also traveling with a heel slime. So it's like, you're not going to forget those two guys.
Well, you don't know how long he was a heel slime for.
Right. But you're not going to forget that guy, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, after he got roided up, as you mentioned, he got roided up at the end of Chapter 1 by the King. Remember, with all those experience points.
Yeah, and at this point, he's probably a bunch of levels below your main group, but at that point, it doesn't really matter too much because he'll gain levels really quick in the beginning and even out, which is really nice.
All right. And I will say that I do have a feeling that the final chapter, the final part of this mini-series will be the longest one, so I'm just getting everyone prepared for that, because even though we did a bunch of stuff today and kind of got all of this, all the party members sorted, I still think there's a good amount of stuff, and then we're gonna have a kind of like a recap of overall. We mentioned that we'll probably talk about the thing that Hector / Hoffman's going to do. Mm-hmm. So I expect the final episode to be a long one, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, final thoughts before we go.
Great game. It's going to be good next chapter, or next part, too, as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll be back with some more of this mini-series, Dragon Warrior for Life. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Jim Boy Star podcast. Please visit the website www.thatspodcasting.com, where you can get the latest news on all of the latest upcoming episodes of this show, and you could download the archives of previous episodes, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher for the latest episodes coming right to you right when they're released. You can also follow me at www.twitter.com/JimBoyStar. This is my story, and thank you for being a part of it.